When I had Gilbert Arenas on my show recently, and keep in mind, Gilbert has an Adidas sneaker deal.
Yeah.
He originally had one. He lost it after the whole gun charge thing, but now, he's back with Adidas and they're re-releasing the sneakers and so forth. He is convinced that Kanye purposely went on this anti-Semitic rant to get out of the Adidas deal because he wanted to take ownership of Yeezy himself, and he knew this was the only way he was going to actually be able to pull it off because contractually there was no walking away from that deal.
Okay.
Knowing Kanye, do you think this is... And I'm arguing with Gilbert. Like, no, I'm telling you, he did this on purpose. Yeah. True or false?
Ye does not think like that. Let me give you an example. So the Gap line that he created was so amazing. By the way, I have the whole line because it never came out, and I got mine before it went away.
I got one of the hoodies, and it was...
the hoodie came out, but everything else...
Pretty lame, actually. It's like, goes up to like your belly button. It was like a little weird.
For me,
I don't have the body type,
for me on a Friday night, I may do the belly button thing. But no, I
got an extra one. If you want it, man, you could have it.
No, I have the whole line.
Okay, I got you.
But this was going to be Balenciaga, was Yeezy Gap engineered by Balenciaga.
Yeah.
Right before the line drops, Balenciaga, they're going to do all the colors. Right before the line drops, he calls up Balenciaga and says, I don't want any of the colors to come out. Like, it's already created. The clothes are already done. So there's this whole back and forth, and then Balenciaga takes their name off of the project and doesn't release the Balenciaga clothes. So now it's just Yeezy Gap. Then the whole Yeezy Gap, the whole Yeezy and the whole anti-Semitic, all that stuff falls apart. The whole process falls apart, project falls apart. And then Gap, who had made the whole line in stores ready to go, had to trash the entire line. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. So I say that to say, do you think he literally sat up and said, I'm going to say this so I can get out of my deals and do it on my own, when we just passed up the $1 billion?
Yeah, probably not.
I just think it was impulsion. It was just him being impulsive and not really thinking through the consequences on one hand. But on the other hand, I still feel like in some sick way it's him choosing to be a martyr to prove a point that I don't know if it's been proven.
Yeah, I was actually, I bought some Balenciaga slides a few weeks ago, and I had noticed that they had these like sock shoes.
Yeah.
Like those $20 ones that he's selling now.
Yeah.
And I was like, they looked exactly like the ones that he was selling.
Yeah.
There's just basically socks with just a sole on the bottom.
But let me tell you how I think Adidas is full of shit. And this is where I have to be honest, and probably won't work with y'all after this one. But when I first got hired, one of the best parts of the job that I crafted for myself when I wrote out my own job description, what I was going to do, was I wanted to work with every brand that he touched, to work with them to reinvest in the Black community. So I thought, okay, I'm going to meet. So first thing I did as soon as I got in there, me, the president of Yeezy Gap, Leonardo Lawson at the time, and we met with Adidas and we met with Gap in Vegas. And I sat down with them and I said, how much money, this was to Adidas, how much money does Ye make Adidas? And they just kind of talked. I said, how much money has he made for the company? And they said $3 billion, about $3 billion. I said, $3 billion. Okay, what's the marketing budget and how much do you reinvest in the Black community? And it was a white man, and I want to say he was Asian, but they just kind of looked at each other, and I said, either you're confused or you don't know why I'm asking. And I'll tell you, I just believe that anybody that looks like me, that works with brands like you, should be pouring back into our community. And I don't know if Ye's dialed in enough to ask these questions, so I just want to know. Well, there's no real marketing budget because the hype beast around the Yeezy shoe.
Yeah, that's true. I've never seen a Yeezy ad ever in life.
So you mean to tell me you have a product that sells itself and makes $3 billion. There's no major allocation of money set aside for the shoe for marketing. And then I said, how much money do you pour back into the community? And the answer was alarmingly zero. And I just fundamentally had a problem with that. So you know what they did? Next couple meetings I went to, first they started offering me all the free Yeezys I can get. They were sending me Yeezys. I'm not a sneaker guy. I'll wear a Yeezy, but like a Yeezy's not gonna deflect from me focusing on what I want to focus on. So after all the Yeezys were coming and whatever, they brought in a Black man. Daniel. I'm like, hey, Daniel. Daniel was the Black man from Yeezy, from Adidas, who's going to partner with Ye to get everything right. Well, what happened was Daniel built this personal relationship with Ye to kind of get me out the way so they can buddy-buddy do whatever. And so Ye stopped really allowing me to push this, reinvest in the school, reinvest in here and whatever. And then they became friends. Well, of course, like every relationship with Ye, that relationship went south very fast, and Ye went and made a whole dummy, like a big like a scarecrow dummy of Daniel, and like was hanging it and like putting it on social media to where now Daniel had to go get security to walk around with him, and now I think they're in some litigation or something. You know, the whole mastery of Adidas and how they preyed on Ye being not of sound mind, and used him the way that they did. And I mean, there's so many unreleased Yeezys because when he used to stay at the Soho House. He rented a whole floor. The whole room, I walked in one day and his creative team was there, and he had so many different pairs of Yeezy ideas and concepts that I'm thinking, this man is this is a cash cow. Well, when they got the cow out the way, they still continue to produce things that look like his creation, and then they became this whole fight, and they were preying on the community just thinking he was crazy. But in a lot of what he was saying about how they handled him and the equity that he wanted to get out of it, I mean, he believed he should have owned some of Adidas, which is crazy because, you know, that wasn't going to happen.
Well, you could buy stock in Adidas.
He could have, but, yeah. I mean, he probably even didn't give Kim stock. He gave Kim stock, so he knows how to get stock for different companies. But in that instance, I think it became a tug of war that became about ownership of a brand, meaning being on the board or owning it or whatever, being the CEO of Gap. I mean, it became craziness instead of just building his own and moving on. But Adidas, you all are some shady people. They're taking $3 billion. And then, you know, that's probably why they fired Beyonce, because Beyonce wasn't the cash cow over at Adidas. Kanye West.
Right. I mean, nobody was buying that Ivy Park stuff.
No, but having Beyonce and Kanye, it's like you have the best of both worlds. You have the best of the best.
Well, maybe on paper it appears like that, but people aren't dressing like Beyonce.
I agree, but I mean in terms of brand recognition, having the Beyonce, you know, but when they lost Yeezy and they had lost all that money, you throw the baby out with the bathwater. Beyonce went too, you know, and they lost all that. So I don't know. Interesting to watch how they rebuild. Had a whole call with them and their whole team about how they want to invest in the black community. That all went away too. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I was just going to mention that the Balenciaga sock shoes are exactly like the Yeezy sock shoes. And when I asked the saleswoman, I said, who came up with these first? And she's like, well, it's a little bit of a sore issue. You know, I mean, we came out with them first, but I think there were some conversations ahead of time and whatever. But the Balenciaga ones are like $800 and the Yeezy ones like $20.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of intermixing and so forth. And fashion in general is sort of weird because you could actually copy a fashion design as long as you make it like 10 or 20% different.
Well, I don't know those rules, but I know that him and the designer, I know it starts with the D. I'm bad. Him and Dema, the designer of Balenciaga, are really close. Like close.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe there was a late night sip of some Hennessy or something and, you know, they looked at a sketch or two and then bam, we both got the same idea. I don't know.
Yeah.
Those are rich people problems. I'm broke compared to them.
Right. We're too broke to fully comprehend this, right? Yeah, we're not billionaires by any stretch of the imagination.
Nope. But I know this. If a billionaire called me from a country and said, I want to give you $1 billion to create, I'm sitting down and fucking creating.
Yeah.
All this extra shit, the whole I don't even know how all the tentacles formed around what was happening. But I had to get up out of there. Because if you stay in a circus too long, you'll start wearing the paint.